We find ourselves in Lindlar, a small principality east of Germany, in the year 1946. It has been a short time since the Second Great War came to a close. The war has ended, but it has not truly left. Lindlar sits beneath a low, colorless sky, its stone streets still bearing hairline fractures from passing convoys. Timber-framed houses stand intact but tired, their beams darkened by soot and long winters of rationed coal. The air smells faintly of damp earth and old smoke. Inside a private room above a modest tavern, three men sit around a square oak table. A single lamp hangs low over them, casting a narrow circle of amber light. Beyond it, the corners of the room dissolve into shadow. At the center sits the aristocrat. His posture is impeccable, spine straight, hands folded lightly before him. His hair, pale blonde with the faintest blue cast in the lamplight, has been combed back with meticulous care. Not a strand dares rebellion. His suit, though modest by pre-war standards, is cut precisely. The collar is crisp, the cufflinks subtle. His expression is composed, cool, and difficult to read, like a man accustomed to holding authority even when the worlds shift beneath him. To his left sits the veteran. His new prosthetic arm rests on the table, polished metal and leather straps catching the glow of the lamp. The hand, mechanical fingers articulated by cables, flexes faintly as he experiments with the sensation, adjusting unconsciously. The sleeve of his jacket has been tailored to accommodate it, though the stiffness in his shoulder betrayed discomfort. He lifts his glass carefully with his remaining natural hand, jaw tight but determined. His eyes carry calculation and perhaps resentment. Across from them sits the third man. He is broader, rougher, his features weathered as though carved by wind and poor decisions. A black eye patch stretches over his right eye, the strap disappearing into unkempt hair. A faint scar drags from beneath it downwards to his cheekbone. His coat is heavy, worn at the cuffs, practical rather than elegant. He leans back in his chair, boots planted wide, one thumb hooked in his belt, as though the formality of the setting amuses him. 3 glasses of premium whiskey rest before them, amber liquid catching the light like captured fire. It is an indulgence in a time when indulgence is rare. The aristocrat lifts his glass first. The other two follow. They drink in silence. The whiskey burns warmly down their throats, settling into their stomachs with a promise of clarity, or perhaps courage. The aristocrat sets his glass down with deliberate softness. The man with the prosthetic arm adjusts his seat, metal fingers curling once more against the wood. The eye-patched man leans forward slightly, elbows on his knees now, interest sharpened. The lamp hums faintly overhead, and in that narrow circle of light, amid the quiet aftermath of a shattered nation, they prepare to discuss business. Goedemorgen, heren. Welcome. My name, well, as you know, is Romano Orsini. Well, you know where I hail from. I've called you two here today because you are experts in your field. We have much to discuss. Perhaps we should start with an introduction.
At the mention of an introduction. Oh, I got this. At the mention of an introduction, I would lean forward a bit more. Putting the drink back on the table for a second. Said lean. Edward Shaw. I would say a bit exasperated. I recently came here from America. Did all this crap going on, so a bit curious what's been happening. But we can talk about that in maybe a second.
Do tell me, mijnheer. Mijn naam is Friedrich. I come from Berlin. I visited my estate before, before the treaty gets signed. Before we get into more danger than we find ourselves in.
Before we get into the big business at hand, do y'all mind informing me what happened with this war and all that?
I see. You're left unaware.
Mm-hmm.
It ended in tragedy, as you can imagine. Forsooth, I must say. We had the displeasure of encountering mad Garu, or, well, werewolves, I suppose I should say. They refer to themselves as the central focal point of their Garu nation, primitive tribes of troglodytes, trying to usurp power in an era dominated by us humans. It's amusing, but it is also an eyesore. These maddened cultists, grotesque abominations, corrupted in baleful fire. They enacted a ritual in the heart of Berlin and summoned a fragment, an avatar of the Shenty of entropy. We almost died. Those foolish bastards almost brought this world to its knees. It took great sacrifice. The tradition mages, the technocracy or technocratic union, whatever they call themselves these days, the filthy bloodsuckers, and even the other tribes of werewolves. So many gathered to face this enemy of all life. Many lost their souls that day. I was fortunate to be far enough away. But this man, Friedrich, he is a survivor, an eyewitness. Tell me, what terror did you see that day?
Yeah.
It was madness. Crazy abominations everywhere. We barely stood a chance, but I fought and I fought with all my heart. Those sick bastards only managed to take one arm. But I soon got it replaced with this fine weapon. Still still things I'm gonna used to. But after that horrid encounter, I'm sure I can manage learning to use a simple arm again. For now, we're lucky to get rid of those bastards. But
It's a bit
Who knows
surprising.
when they will return? Yes, I share your fears, hence why I have arranged for this meeting.
Hmm.
We've been marked, I'm afraid. Marked by that avatar. He unbuttons his collar and shows you a strange mark on his chest.
Wasn't that?
Yes, we've been marked as targets. I suppose one would call this a blessing of the shanty of entropy, though whether I would consider it one is questionable. Our dear Friedrich over here also has a mark, though I suppose the more critical one is the loss of his arm. In fairness, I must say, we need not worry about its immediate return. However, who's to say it shall not return soon? If maddened cultists, these renegade, lupine bastards, try to resummon this creature, we will all be doomed. I highly doubt we can defeat it a second time. So, we must begin culling them.
All right.
so, Great City, what do you propose we do?
All right.
Well, my plan is exceedingly simple, Friedrich. I aim to broaden my horizons when it comes to the entities known as werewolves. To be frank, what are they truly? We are all enlightened in this room. We understand the concept of the spirit world, the land beyond the physical. So, if there is a physical world and there is a spiritual world, why then is a werewolf able to travel in between? You and I are trapped here upon this earth, and when we die, we go to the spirit world, presumably. Spirits also exist. In what grand capacity I am unsure, but I have proof of their existence. In fact, these lupines prey to powerful spirits and gained blessings from them to use in their fierce combat abilities. But why? Why do we tolerate such a pest? Think of it, the desecration. We humans are tied to the physical, and spirits are tied to spirits. Why then should we allow an interloper who can travel between the realms as they please, causing chaos and havoc wherever they go? I find such a creature, such an entity revolting.
Agreed.
In so doing, the research that I aim is, well, how to gain those powers for myself. Whether we consider them repulsive or disgusting or nothing but mere mutts is a moot point.
Hmm.
What we can say, however, is that their powers are truly astonishing. Powers that we would make better use of.
I can agree to that. If we
So,
had those
gentlemen,
powers.
I must ask, have you ever thought about what it is that a werewolf might be?
Hmm.
Able to shapeshift from form to form, man to wolf. They possess quite a surmountable amount of ability. But
I would assume that they might be a little bit more servants of these, Shenty. Well, depending on where they go with this, I believe they have their own terminologies as well. I think it should be the one they fanaticize about the most, the wild. I can't say for sure though, because honestly, I don't know enough about these damn Garu either. But I agree with you, Romano. I'm very fascinated in the fact of how they use their powers. Maybe even finding a way to harness that power. I have to admit, it drives a man. But I believe it's
Your
connected.
jest is unbecoming, Mr. Edward Shaw. Your true identity is mysterious indeed. I know of you because of your fierce reputation as a bounty hunter for the Premium Oil Company.
Correct.
I happen to be a major shareholder in said company. Hence why I know of your existence. And I know you are also intimately familiar with the Garu folk. You yourself share blood with them. Do you not? There's no need to lie. My experiments have allowed me to be able to distinguish those that possess the recessive traits of werewolves.
At the mention of that, I would take another sip of my whiskey before putting it down. Looking across the table with a expression. Yeah. Though I can't really say I can use their abilities that well either. Technically, I'm more in the same boat as y'all. Learning as I go. Let's keep it at that.
dang it, these beasts don't leave much left behind.
Yeah.
So much we still don't know about these abominations.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Firstly, we must speak of the werewolf in kind. A werewolf, as far as I'm concerned, has three major forms from what I can recognize. There is the human form, in which they appear no different from you or I. They have the wolf form, the lupus, as we call it. And then they have the fierce beast form, where they take the adjacent beast, the true powers, a true werewolf. What other forms they may possess, I am uncertain of. However, I have seen their transformations. They are able to utilize spiritual power they gain from the earth, and then transform it using their rage, which is perhaps almost a spiritual quality, to channel it into powers. These powers come from contracts with spirits. I suppose it would be more accurate to refer to them as proto-shamans. Old tales in Africa, where they do ritual dances and primitive pagan cult worship, is very close to how these special spirits they seem to be able to talk to function. So, we come to the prominent question. How do the werewolves propagate? This is the crux of the matter, I say. And we did so by capturing werewolves and testing our theories. Firstly, a werewolf is neither man nor wolf. It is neither physical nor spiritual. It is in between, and as such, it is rejected by both sides. It must masquerade amongst either side in order to gain the balance of its cursed existence. I refer here to what they are capable of, because in much the same way they propagate abnormally. For example, a werewolf in human form may attempt to breed with another human. The rates at which said human can get pregnant is low, to be sure, but it is possible. And when this child is born, they will possess the bloodline of a werewolf. Though a werewolf may also choose to breed with an animal, the wolf. Specifically, we're referring to the Canis lupus species.
Huh.
When they do so, the wolf in question will birth pups, a litter, and this litter will grow. Some remain ordinary wolves, others gain the capacity to become werewolves later. They gain human form and possess intelligence beyond being a mere wolf, though their more feral nature becomes stronger. It is difficult for such specimens to integrate into human society because they were raised in the wilds of nature, first and foremost. I found such a thing interesting. What if a werewolf breeds with another werewolf? We tested that out as well. A curious situation. It appears to cause genetic abnormalities, similar to too few gene pool in human beings. I refer here to incest, more specifically. It seems as if this strange spiritual gene pool causes abnormalities in the child. While in some ways they may be superior to their average and have a very much higher chance of becoming a werewolf, it also makes them entirely sterile. Much beyond that, they possess abnormalities in a different sense. Tumors, perhaps, or spiritual sickness, hard to say. So, in these experiments, we had to recover specimens, and, of course, try to make our own lineage of werewolves. At first we tried DNA. We know, now, a method to find the bloodline of werewolves, to prove so with a spiritual catalyst. However, it seems the traits for the first awakening, the first transformation, is rare indeed. One could live their entire life as a normal human being or a normal wolf without ever gaining the strength of a werewolf. But once they pass on their genes, their children will inherit that bloodline too, and perhaps they will then awaken instead of the parent. So essentially, it may skip a generation. I suppose that's what happened to you, Mr. Edward Shaw. You are not able to access the powers of the lupus, but you definitely possess the bloodline. What say you about this?
It would make sense. From how you're describing these Garu, if they try to breed amongst each other, that in itself doesn't work out well because of how incestuous it probably seems. Bit curious how that happens, but I can't say we know all too much to argue on this part. But it would explain a lot of things as well, especially with the generations continuing on and on. Oh. Huh. How would one exactly get back that power after? Or is it just something that's gone until the next generation? Oops. I'd say as I would take another sip of my whiskey.
So, Mr. Orsini. I figure you found a way to activate or open this power.
Maybe, perhaps.
Oh,
There is a
really?
seed of a possibility, hence why the two of you are here.
Ah. So you want to test this experiment, of course, then.
First, allow me to share some research data
Mm-hmm.
that I have brought with you. So, he passes a few documents around. I'm going to read what's on the documents pretty soon.
Alright.
But essentially, he's going to begin the explanation here. Well, I possess a very special lineage as well. I know Mr. Friedrich here possesses a special lineage too. And of course, Mr. Shaw, you possess the blood of these werewolves as well. We all share that in common. We each have something special in our blood, something that sets us apart from the rest. Hence, it is important that we find ways to strengthen this power. So, the experimentations began with recovering the recessive subjects. I believe the Garu refer to them as their kinfolk. The relevancy of the term is lost on me, I'm afraid. But, well, they do hold them very dear. Like a mother protecting their child, well, it's easier to kill the parents and then take the child, rather than simply steal them away. As you can imagine, such a thing is easier said than done. It took us many sacrifices. I spent quite an exorbitant amount of money in order to obtain our preliminary specimens. Both kinds, the lupus, the wolves with the special genes, and of course, human children who possess the genes. Firstly, there was a question. While a werewolf is able to procreate with a wolf, how do they do so? Can a werewolf impregnate a wolf in human form, or must they go into wolf form? As you all know, cross-species fertilization is impossible without gene splicing.
Yeah.
So I was curious. It was a difficult answer to find. I myself had to degrade and fornicate with wolves. As you can imagine, the test ended in a failure. In the end, we are two different species, and fertilization is impossible without some sort of gene splicing. And so, I was left with little choice. we had to use the Homid breed, as they refer to them, the human kinfolk. So, following the conclusive failure of the Canis lupus hybridization attempts, the experimental focus shifted towards, as you can imagine, human breeding. The rationale for this pivot was grounded in the established biological premise that the Garu gene is a closed loop within the species, requiring a compatible vessel for propagation. The Canis lupus host was identified as an incompatible mitochondrial acceptor, leading to embryonic rejection.
Hmm.
The human host was selected as the optimal biological matrix due to their high degree of genetic compatibility with the genome of the werewolves, while retaining the physiological stability of a human gestation period. We had this principle as theory, but we needed specific selection protocols. Candidates were identified through the analysis of blood samples and aura perception. The subjects were rigorously screened for this so-called kinfolk taint, a genetic marker indicating latent potential for the first change, the first transformation into werewolf, shall we say. Due to the desire for controlled variables, the population pool was restricted to individuals aged between 6 to 14. This age demographic was selected for two primary reasons: the rapid cellular turnover rate of young subjects, which facilitates genetic manipulation, and the malleability of the developing reproductive system. The recruitment process was unceremonious. Subjects were identified in their homes, often in the presence of their parents, and transported to the containment facility. The parents were offered compensation in the form of resources or protection, their consent obtained through coercion or manipulation. The subjects themselves were subjected to a battery of tests, including bone density scans, blood type analysis, and genetic sequencing to identify specific markers of this lunar auspice. The central hypothesis of the second phase was that this mysterious werewolf genome could be stabilized within the human host through precise timing relative to the lunar cycle. The werewolf reproductive cycle is heavily influenced by their mysterious connection to the lunar cycle. Conception is most successful during periods of high lunar resonance, thus. The experimental subjects were housed in a controlled environment designed to stimulate the sensory inputs of the wild, the scent of ozone, the sound of wind, and the visual spectrum of the moon. The subjects were then exposed to the werewolf sensory input via ritual drums or recorded vocalizations. Think of it as experiments one would do on animals by mimicking mating calls and such, hoping to stimulate the reproductive capacity. And such, the breeding trials began with the introduction of a Garu male, chosen for his high lunar auspice and genetic purity. The breeding process was not left to chance, but was orchestrated. The male was introduced to the female human subject in a sensory deprivation tank, allowing the male to scent the female without the distraction of human sight. This enhanced olfactory connection was believed to increase the success rate of this call of the wild instinct, influencing the female's biological clock. The initial fertilization success rate was recorded at 42%. This percentage was deemed acceptable given the environmental constraints of the facility. Once fertilization was confirmed via ultrasound, the subjects were removed to begin the containment procedure. The early stages of gestation were monitored with extreme rigor. The subjects were subjected to a diet rich in protein and specific minerals, calcium, phosphorus, and iron, to support the rapid skeletal growth characteristics of werewolf fetuses. However, the subjects also required spiritual nutrition. The facility maintained a constant connection to this spiritual realm through use of our sorceries, projecting the images of, shall we say, more spiritual planes onto the land directly into their minds. This was hypothesized to accelerate the transformation into the first change, pushing the transformation to occur within the womb. This is, as you can imagine, abnormal, as the first change usually happens in early teen years or perhaps young adulthood. The data collected from the first 50 successful pregnancies yielded critical insights. Firstly, the gestational duration. The standard human gestation period was consistently reduced by 15%. The subjects gave birth at approximately 36 weeks, with the infants exhibiting signs of accelerated maturity. There were, of course, also birth defects. The incidence of this, shall we say, abnormal birth was recorded at 48.2% of the total successful gestations. These aberrants, which the Garu seem to refer to as the metis, is what usually happens when two werewolves engage in fornication. This has proven to be quite a problem in the breeding cycle. While possessing the full range of lunar auspices and the ability to shift into the true beast form, this aberrant is biologically compromised. Primary among these defects is absolute sterility, rendering the lineage incapable of perpetuating itself without the intervention of us. Additionally, these aberrants are frequently born with physical deformities, hemophilia, heterochromia, supernumerary digits, or skeletal malformations. That result, of course, leads to a lower survival rate. Then, of course, is the trauma recorded through the first change. When it occurred within the womb, it was invariably fatal for the mother. The fetus, shifting into the beast form, would rupture the uterine wall, causing massive internal hemorrhaging. This necessitated the development of a new birthing protocol, a cesarean section, performed under sterile conditions, with the fetus being removed before the first change could be triggered. The high incidence of abnormal births was a significant setback. The character viewed shall we say, this abnormality as genetic curiosity. The hypothesis positioned by optimizing the breeding between humans and these kinfolk were strictly controlled thereafter. With strict efficiency, these abnormal birth defects could be reduced by 5%. Still very high, but makes it better. To further enhance the genetic purity of the offspring, we developed something known as spiritual infusion. This protocol involves exposing a pregnant female subject to a concentrated stream of raw, chaotic energy produced from spiritual sorcery. The theory was that this energy would burn away the human weaknesses in the fetus, leaving only the pure spiritual werewolf essence. Unfortunately, this did not go very well, as you can imagine. The werewolf is a delicate balance between humanity, physical, and spirit, the wolf. To have more spirit than physicality, or to have more physicality than spirit, leads to an imbalance. Such an entity cannot be referred to as a werewolf. Our tests are proceeding as normal. Currently, we have initiated protocols to birth the alpha genus. These are specific female kinfolk that have been chosen to receive my bloodline so that I may become the center of focus, the patriarch of a new subsequent bloodline for werewolves. Unfortunately, it is difficult to say if these results are successful or a failure. The specialties of my blood have proven to be an irregular factor in birthing true werewolves. We had one successful candidate, my son. His strength and youthful vigor is something to be admired. Hence I named him after our war hero, Hendrickson. Interesting indeed, I must say. Still, he will prove to be useful in the future. There has been a problem, though. No spirit, the common spirits that all other tribes of werewolves worship and gain powers from, are willing to accept my son. This has led to a problem. We must obtain the power of these spirits for ourselves, if we are to make a powerful lineage. That is why the two of you are here. I know for a fact, Friedrich, that you have been blessed by the Shenty of Stasis, balance and control. And of course, you, Mr. Edward Shaw, are going to be, well, a tester of sorts. We have developed a ritual with which to steal the strength of a werewolf away for oneself. It is primitive and base, but it works, or we think it works. A prime specimen such as yourself should try it out, though.
All right.
Are you interested?
Sure. Why not?
The method is very simple. You must capture a werewolf alive. You must skin it alive. Take its fur off its body. And then, when you have obtained at least 3 pelts, you must wear them and then enact a sacred ritual of sacrifice. As a mage, you should be very familiar with this.
Yeah.
And then, under the full moon's light, you will steal their powers for your own. This is merely theory, of course. You will have to test it out. We have no true kinfolk on our side. The children are too young to attempt such things, and they are rare to come by indeed. We do not have the resources to waste them. Hence why I asked for your help. I know you are curious to try. Hence why I'm sharing this information so freely.
I see. Then yeah, I'll give it a try.
As for you, Mr. Friedrich, I would like you to accompany me back to the lab. You and I must have a long conversation about rituals. My goal is very simple. If there is no spirit who will accept my son, then we will create one. We will manifest one. We will taint one and make it our own. Stasis, the Shenty, most dominant in our era, has the greatest power of entrapment, to seal, to contain. Rest assured, my family, the Orsini, will do everything it takes to support you in your future endeavors. We are willing to become longtime sponsors in your, shall we say, journey to reach beyond the light of heaven.
I look forward to working with you, Mr. Orsini. May we have a fruitful and long friendship.
Yes, I do so agree with you. He extends his hand for a handshake. Gentlemen, there are more documents, more things to discuss, more ritual results. Frankly, it is somewhat depraved, if I must say so myself. I mean, can you imagine the embarrassment of me having to fornicate with a wolf? My family will not let me live that one down, I'm sure. As for breeding with children, well, we mages do much worse on a daily basis, such as the sacrifice for the weight of progress. Hendrickson presents a possibility, a branch of my family. I have been reminiscing on what to name him, for I have not allowed him to use my family name. We all will agree to a treaty here, I'm sure. This will become the Treaty of Lindlard between the Orsini family, Mr. Friedrich of the Faustian lineage, and of course, Mr. Edward Shaw, the greatest bounty hunter of the Premium Oil Foundation.
Hmm.
As such, I would like to celebrate by naming my son after our treaty.
Very well.
Lindlard. We exist here. Lindlard. Vanderlyn. Yes. A trait to remind him where he was first birthed. His home